How you going?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. Good now.
Yeah.
Good now. Chilled out and set in for the day.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so have a good drive coming down here.
It was a good drive, actually.
Yeah.
I got almost all the way through the new Soilwork album, so
Oh, yeah?
so that was something I haven't actually spent enough time on.
Yeah, because you're going to tour with them, that's right, eh?
We're doing one show.
One show.
Just doing the one show.
Yeah, with Mason.
With Mason, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I can bring that a bit closer if you want.
yeah, no worries. Huge fan. Huge fan of Soilwork.
Yeah?
I just haven't had the chance to, spend the time to listen to the new album, to be honest with you. So
I don't think I've heard anything off it.
okay, yeah. But yeah, it's a great album, so it's really cool. Yeah, so I don't mind long drives to get my, my sound in. You know what I mean? Get those albums in that you don't get the chance to listen to.
Yeah, because you don't do it at home, eh?
Nah.
As much as you go, when I get home, I'm going to chuck this on, then you just don't.
Yeah, or if you do, you put something on there. If you're doing something, you do want something that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little hard to if you're working on something and you're listening to an album, you can't sit there and listen to the intricate parts and enjoy it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You've got too much going on. Whereas when you're in your car, you're kind of just in the zone.
That's it, yeah. If you're working on something, put some Macadacker on, some old classics, some Gunners, you go for it.
Yeah.
But when I like to digest music, I like to digest it, you know what I mean? I'm pretty old school in that sense.
Yeah.
I still can put an album on and do nothing except for listen to the album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No sort of like on your phone at the same time
that's
sort of
the
stuff.
thing. As much as you can, people reckon they can multitask. If I'm on my phone, I'm still not fully paying attention. You know what I mean?
I think some people could probably do it, but not me.
Yeah.
When I listen, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm the same. Yeah, because we're music fans, though. I guess if you're just casual that just doesn't give a shit about, you ask some people, "Oh, what music you into?" "Oh, I don't know. I'm not." Yeah, then maybe it's a different story. But that's funny because I do most of my music listening, all of it in the car, or driving to jobs because I drive a lot for work. And the funny thing is, I like being, say if I'm driving to our depot where I work out of, it's about 30 minutes in the morning, 25, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to get a bit of a listen in before work. But I find that if I'm driving to a job that's closer, I don't know why, I'm like in a shit mood when I get to work because it's like I just got into the song or an album and then I got to pull over work and I'm like, for fuck's sake. And then you're up to a good bit and you sit in your car and people are like, what's this weirdo doing in his car? I'm like, I've got to finish the song. I can't. That's like an
when
OCD.
the solo's done, then I'm there.
Yeah, it's like you have to get to the end of a certain bit. It's like, when you're at the putting fuel in your car, I have to stop. Has to stop on a zero or on an even number. It's like a weird thing I've got wrong with me. Yeah, it was dropped on the head when I was a kid, I'm sure.
For me, it's got to be the guitar solo. You can't stop halfway through.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's like that with a song. I can't just pull up, and if it's in the middle of like that wicked bit, I can't turn it off. And then you see someone, they'll stand at your window, and they're waiting to talk to you. You pull up in their driveway, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And then you're like. Then you turn the ignition off and get out. You're like, now I'm ready. What were you doing? Oh, sorry, I couldn't. Sorry, I can't talk to you on half a song, mate. It's going to be the full song.
It was an important Skype meeting.
Yeah. What, is your boss into metal, is he? So that Soilwork, I haven't really listened to them. Did they have an album called Living Infinite or something like that?
Yeah.
That was the last one I think I listened to. But before that, I remember when I was a teenager, I was on the Machine Head message boards and I discovered so much music through there, and because there was heaps of Europeans on there and Americans and that. And I remember everyone was into Soilwork on there and The Haunted. And because I'm pretty sure that Peter Dolving might have been a member on that message board.
Okay.
And then I added him on Facebook, and he was super weird, crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was putting all sorts of weird shit on Facebook. I think I deleted him because he was just like, this guy's fucking off his head, man. He's probably a really nice guy. I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
You've met him, have you?
No. So,
But yeah, so there was that. I remember that Steel Bath Suicide album.
okay, yeah, the old ones, yeah.
They're the only two album names I remember for some reason.
Yeah.
And I know they've obviously got a ton of albums, but I'm not super familiar with the band. But they're clearly awesome musicians.
Yeah. So we, when I was in Mason,
you can take that a bit closer if you want.
When I was in Mason, we did the last, tour with Sawwork. So, I mean, that would have been, before the pandemic, right before. So it was like literally one of the last shows I played with those guys.
Was that like 2019 or something?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it was awesome because there's fantastic musos and just really good. I think it's one of those bands you got to be a good player to understand it, because a lot of the times it isn't in your face, blast beat shreddy. Although sometimes it is. So it's like it's one of those things that they'll chuck it in at nice tasty spots, and I don't know, it's more of a compositional sort of appreciation, and but the obviously everyone's got the chops to back it up as well. So
because who's their drummer? What's his name again?
Dirk used to play.
Oh,
they got a new guy. I can't think of
it.
I can't think of his name now, but because now he's with Megadeth and
that's right. Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah, so he's spreading little blast beats in Megadeth.
Yeah. When I heard that he's joined Megadeth, I was like, do you think do you think he'd be holding back a lot? Because Megadeth's thrashy, but drumming's never been crazy technical or anything like that.
Certainly, his chops are way underutilized in that band. Megadeth being my favourite band, I'm still it feels like you're stealing somebody, whose resources could be used elsewhere. But at the same time, I
reckon it probably takes just as much talent to restrain and play the right part, the right beat at the right part, because I'm sure there's just as much talent as playing a tasteful, simple beat as there is playing crazy shit. Because you hear a lot of bands now, and this is probably not going to be a very popular comment now, but so many drummers are just, it's like everyone's trying to one-up each other. In like a lot of the like deathcore and stuff, everything's just so full on. It's like someone's got a bucket of golf balls and emptied it on top of the drum kit. It's just everything's going crazy, and there's not any nuance. It's just who was I listening to the other day? This other guy I did a podcast with ages ago. I was a guest on this guy, John King, really nice guy from over east. He's got a podcast called the Heavy Sweater Podcast.
Okay.
And he just had that Styx Zadinia guy from Steel Panther.
Okay, yeah.
The drummer from there.
Yeah.
And he had a really good point. He said about now, like there's these drums on Instagram that could play technically way better than him.
Yeah.
But as good as a drummer tastefully, probably not. Maybe not. Oh, not that you could tell from their videos. And he said they're just going crazy doing all this stuff, but you can't write a song like that.
It's it, and I think it goes the same for the guitar scene as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. It's become, I mean, I think if you go to look at, you look at the band situation, how many bands are out there, just ripping it up, or whether you think that music is, has substance to it or not. That's one thing, but I think you've also got the platform of the Instagrams and those sorts of things where, when I said before, I'm the sort of person that would love to sit down and just, digest myself into a whole piece of music.
Yeah.
You know, the reality is you know, it's coming down to 30-second, you know, flips and you know, on your phone, and I think that in itself is breeding a bit of a situation where people are just trying to lay down as many chops within the least amount of time possible,
because they're going to lose your attention pretty quick
to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know, and I at the same time I can't be negative towards that as well, because you know, as a musician, you know, you get started and everyone tells you straight away, you got to get out there. You got to do what it takes to get out there. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. So if that means shredding like ridiculous in 30 seconds, then that's what you do. You know what I mean?
That's what and you got to get noticed. If there's 50 million videos on Instagram of guitarists, you know, doing pentatonics fast, well then you got to do sweeps faster than them or something, just to get to the forefront, I guess, in a way. So,
and unfortunately, I think that's you know, I think that's just the product of where we're sitting at the moment, the way the formats are.
That's a good point. Yeah,
you know, and I can be. I can definitely go down that route. I could be at blame for shredding in 30 seconds, without a doubt. I'm lucky because I can do that. You know, I like the fact that I can quickly just rip something up and put it up. Yeah. Because it's my skill set. So I was like, well, why not? Because it only takes me 30 seconds to actually do it. So I may as well do my 30-second shred video and chuck it up. You know, but then it becomes, I suppose when it becomes negative as well, is that you've got, you know, people faking it and doing, you know, a gazillion takes, and
then they're overlaying
miming
a track that they've cut and pasted together. Yeah. And then it's like, can they actually really play that live?
And that's when things get bad, because I think that's when it becomes a really toxic environment. I'm all for, you know, worshipping, you know, the gods of guitar. That's one of my favorite things to do. But when people are just out there, just, you know, they're full of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And just like, you know, palming it off as you know, of their own. I can't get down with that.
No.
And I'm good at, I can see what's wrong. You know, I can see which ones are fake and which ones aren't. Yeah. But I don't think younger guitar players can. And if I was younger, that would have freaked me out. You know.
Yeah, and you probably doubt yourself a lot, because I do that a lot as well. You see good players like yourself, and then I've been playing probably around 20 years, and I'm like, I should be way better than what I am. You know what I mean? Really. But so then when you do see people that are shredding, and then it's like a kid on Instagram that's like 12, and it's like, fucking can't. It's like fucking, I'll never be that good, and then you can't sleep, and because it bothers me, because can be a bit of a competitive person sometimes, and or it bothers me because I want to be good, and then but I also don't have 8 hours a day to sit in my bedroom and play anymore.
And there's also the, you know, in all honesty, a great composition is what wins.
That's
in
right.
The end. So, you know, it took me a while to understand that. I mean, I've got the chops now, and I spent the time and did it. But you know, these days I'm more likely to, you know, appreciate a massive chorus. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we were talking earlier, you know, a well-written chorus sounds big and everything works. Yeah. I mean, that's where the money's at, really. I mean, I love it. Everyone else loves it. You don't have to be the greatest, you know, shredder in the world to understand it. You don't have to be like, you know your theory or nothing. You're feeling it, and it's there.
And there's a difference between shredding and a lot mindlessly, and then choosing the right notes, and there's guys like yourself, in my opinion, and like say Mark Tremonti and all that can shred awesome, but really still somehow keep it really musical, which is a skill in of itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
It
then
is,
there's guys that are like, say, I'm just going to throw this generalisation out there. That's, say Kerry King, he's just not really a musical guy, really.
Yeah.
So he's lots just heaps of pentatonic and chromatic shreds and all that, and none of it's really musical. None of it's real memorable. Like one of the best leads, I reckon, is from Metallica. Is like the Unforgiven, and because you can sing that lead, and it's so memorable, and it's not the easiest solo in the world. It's definitely not the hardest, but it's got some cool little things in there as well, and I reckon that's a really well written lead.
Yeah.
And
it is. Yeah, it is. It's super hard. To get that feel and the melody in it, and then I've completely ruined it a million times where I've gone into something and just done a gazillion notes. Totally wrong for the song or whatever.
Can we do another take? I reckon I could fit another 40 notes in there.
But that's artistically that's what I was going for at the time. You know what I mean?
It fits in some stuff, like it fits in some parts as well to do that.
But looking back, I go, that was not the right move. But that was because I didn't know better. You know what I mean? So I went and did it, and then and like you said, Kerry King at the same time, he's probably written some of the most iconic metal riffs of all time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That is like, bigger than any sort of like lead that anyone's written. Those iconic riffs are like so renowned and like
influential. Yeah.
In comparison to somebody's Sweet Picks, which no one could care less about. I just think that I have the ability to really focus on those lead parts and stuff like that. I enjoy that, so that's probably why. But I'm really aware, particularly nowadays, that not everyone's like that. The majority of people couldn't care less.
No.
But I care though.
Yeah. That's right. And the thing is, who are you doing it for? Yourself or others? Obviously, and that's the thing is you're playing your music for yourself primarily, but you also want others to enjoy it because you want others to enjoy it with you. Because as much as you might go, oh well, you can't please everyone. As long as I like my music, so. But at the same time, it's cool seeing someone else like your music. You're like, oh, it's a good feeling.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think I'm lucky that people can. I mean, it's the way I play has a bit of a visual aspect to it as well, which is kind of handy. With the tapping and everything, it is. I didn't mean it to come across that way.
Yeah.
But it does. It's sort of like people like to see that.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. People can see it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
However, they may not enjoy it musically as much as, I think a lot of stuff I do, guitar players love it. And, musicians may like some of the parts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of it, people like because I think they can see it. That it's good. So I think I'm sort of fortunate in that sense where others, there's other guitar players out there that might not have that visual aspect to what they're doing and can sometimes go under the radar where I'm thinking it's amazing. I'm watching this, where did that idea come from? But everyone's just like, did you not see that?
That's like you see that Rick Graham and his economy is so like of motion is so minuscule. It's like,
it's hard to tell.
Is he even moving his fingers?
Yeah. If it wasn't for the sound.
It's so seamless. And it's, in a lot of ways that's cool too, but it's not as flashy.
That's
I guess.
it, yeah.
But so now musically, what are you doing currently?
At the moment, I'm just focusing on this Sawwork show because, it's got, going back a bit, I left Mason just before the pandemic, and sort of, wanted to, I wanted to do this solo stuff that I was doing because that was doing well for me at the time, and put together another band, but that all sort of like, fell apart with pandemic and everything. So coming back, they've asked me to play this show, and I'm super keen because it's been so long.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Soilwork is you know, one of my favorite bands, and you know, and to get back and play those shows and hang out with the guys from Mason is going to be just a blast. So I was down for that. So it's kind of like playing the old songs, which was cool. It took me a little while to, you know, get back up again.
Yeah. It's pretty full on stuff.
There's some full on stuff, but my memory just wasn't as, you know, I couldn't do it straight away.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, had to relearn things again. But it came back. Like it's all in there somewhere, in the muscle memory somewhere. I just needed to like play it a few times and get a couple of melodies right, and then you remember what the next melody is or something,
Yeah.
you know, next line or something.
Yep.
So that was cool. Revisiting that stuff was awesome, and they've been working on a new album,
Yeah.
which is really sweet.
So they send you some stuff to learn?
Yeah, so they're doing two. We'll be doing the two new tunes.
Yeah.
Which I'm guessing they're going to play because they're doing some other shows. They're doing another one with Soilwork, and they're doing some other shows. You know, well, they have been doing some other shows, so I'm guessing they've been playing the new songs on that. So I'll just you know, learning new material from them guys. And
So are you going to be a third guitarist for the show?
no, so their guitar player is actually going to be in Perth.
Oh, right.
So he plays in the Metallica tribute tour. Yeah.
Yep.
So he's going to be over here, and I think they really wanted to do the Brisbane thing. So to have me come over and just do it, learn a couple songs, and hang out, which seemed like a smart move, just because they still get to do their show and we get to hang out at the same time. So
because I think the Metallica show is the same night as our gig.
it is. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I was like trying to fucking steal.
And when's your what show is yours on the 5th? Or?
Yeah, the 5th. Yeah.
So it's all on the same night. Yeah.
The other night, one of the boys put a in our band chat. He's like, "Oh, it looks like this gig's on at the same night," and I was like, "Oh, trying to steal our thunder." We'll have to slash their tyres. No, it's definitely that'd be cool to see that though. I bet you they're awesome. Yeah. The band, I haven't seen them before. So
I bet
it's pretty
I haven't
good
actually
covers.
seen them, but I've seen lots of footage and whatever.
Is the
it's
singer
cool.
got the Hetfieldisms down?
Yeah,
like,
it's all cool.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I think they got a they probably play it better than Metallica do these days. But
Yeah.
it's cool. Yeah. I think they're good at it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh well, too bad we're playing at the same night. Otherwise would be able to check them out. But no, you get that. There's a couple other gigs on that night as well. I'm pretty sure. But
far out.
That's how it always happens. So
and
yeah,
it's different. When living in Victoria, where it is possible to have so many shows on one night. It's interesting coming back here where it's a little harder. There's less punters to sort of
to go around.
divide.
Yeah. You got to entice them with a bit of food, a bit of crack. No, I'm joking. We're in Perth, so. But now no one's going to come to our show. They're gonna be like, "Fuck this guy."
or lots of people will. You never know. This could work for you.
Everyone will just feel like chewing their
when
jaw
I said
off.
crack.
But it's funny though because we played a gig a while ago, and I can't remember what band was playing. There was some band, was it international band maybe? Or a big band, and we thought, no one's going to come to our gig, but heaps of people came. It's strange when you think no one's going to come, and then I'd already made my mind up before the show that it was going to suck, and then so by the time I went on stage, I was like, I must have looked so bored. I don't know why, because when you make your mind, because you pump yourself up before a show, but then this time I was like pumping myself down, deflating myself.
Yeah, those expectations on, making sure, you know what you're in for.
Yeah, but so that caught me out, but there's actually more people in Perth than I thought. So
that's cool. It's cool when that happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, just catching up with everybody and playing some of the, the old songs, and, it's awesome.
Amazing to come here.
No, they're not doing the Perth League.
No one comes here, right?
Yeah, so, which would have been cool. That would have been fun.
Oh, yeah, I think it's Silent Night, and who else is supporting?
I think Chaos Divine still.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a good choice. I think it'll be.
They're a good band.
Yeah, both those bands are going to go down well for it.
I'm not familiar with Silent Night though.
Yeah,
Are they power metal or something?
Power metal, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
I really like Silent Night. I think when Dan Britton, who's singing for him now, is doing an awesome job. He was that's kind of how my solo stuff came about. Actually, he did Rumorg Records' first album.
Whose?
Rumorg Records, and that's the record company that it's a great company, ran by John Raptis, who's an amazing photographer / sort of I suppose metal advocate, and he put together this awesome idea of a record label where he was going to print vinyls, and he was going to get people behind it and push it. And Dan did his, I think he was the first Rumorg artist, and it's an awesome album. It's awesome. It's like rocks out. It's got awesome tones, and Dan singing is fantastic. And somewhere along the line, John. Oh no, that's right. I actually asked John to do the photography because he's like the, if you check out his photography, he's got like the most amazing things of Angus Young and Metallica, all the big guys. He does all the big guys. He does all the the other acts as well. Yeah. But obviously most famous from the big acts, and it's just ridiculous. And he was doing a lot of photography for Mason, and for another band that I was playing in called Volgod, which is like a more death metal type thing. So I asked him to do the photography for my solo stuff. I needed somebody. Of course, you go to the best. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? I just did this album with Dan, and it's done really well. Do you want to show us what you got? And I showed him, I had this cover artwork and all these songs, and he's like, just put it through me, and we'll release it on the Rumorg Records. I was like, yeah, awesome. This is great. So we did it, and it started selling really well. We were like, this is awesome. But at some point, being instrumental music, it started to sort of like, slow down a bit. So this would have been like early 2019, around about then. And yeah, the sales sort of they just stopped. And you sort of like look at the names, you could see they're all like, people that I know of that have been fans of Vesper's Descent and all the other things I've done, Mason, everything. So we sort of weren't reaching new audiences and stuff. So we went out, it was kind of like an interesting thing to be stuck. Oh, how are we going to do this? Because it was all pre-order at the time. Needed to get, a certain amount done, and we weren't really happy with the sales. So from there, we, put our thinking caps on. Like, what are we going to do? Ended up putting together a like a clinic style thing. Yeah. In in a shop, sort of like a metal alternative sort of shop in Melbourne there, and so we went in there and just set up and invited people in and just sold physical copies there. Yeah.
Did that work out all right?
It worked out really good. Yeah, so right. that was cool.
A few people rocked up.
Yeah, a few people rocked up, and I suppose that was where at that time I was sort of thinking, oh, this is cool because I haven't really done anything as far as rehearsals and all those sorts of things. Yeah. I'm just rocking up with my guitar, and I haven't sort of my outlay has been zilch except for the album at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's working for me. So, it wasn't like a huge money making thing, but because because the outlay was so small, I suppose it made it a really manageable thing for me to do, as opposed to the band thing. I mean, you know what it's like. It's like, we got a band together. This is how much it's going to cost for rehearsals. This is how much it's going to cost to record. This is how much it's going to cost for this. Blah blah blah. Everything costs. And then, of course, you have to make that back before you make a buck. Yeah. So that was sort of, I don't know, it was a new idea for me to sort of like do music that way, as opposed to, the band thing, which I love doing.
What do you want to do moving forward then? After this show, what's your plan after you get back for this show?
I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing the solo stuff. Yep. I got an album written. I don't know how I'm going to release it yet, because, I think, doing that sort of album thing and selling it, or whether I should go down, the road of just, doing singles and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's a hard one, eh? That's the one that I'm always wondering about with our stuff, because we're thinking about releasing an album next year. Mm-hmm. We've already done an EP, so we're like, maybe we should do an album. And then I'm like, is anyone going to listen to it? To an album's worth of our stuff?
It's hard, isn't it?
Like, I would hope so, but at the same time, then I'm like, do I still? For some of my favourite bands, yeah, but then at the same time, you know how bands are releasing a lot of singles now, so you always got to have content. We'll say the latest Machine Head album that came out, that had like, I think it was 4 singles came out. Okay. 4 or 5. Yeah. Wait, yeah, it was 4 or 5, something like that. So it was like nearly half the songs on the album. And when it came out, it kind of ruined the first listen for me, to be honest, because I'd already heard the other songs. And when a new Machine Head album comes out, they're my favourite band, or one of my favourites. So I like to sit down or drive in the car and really listen to the album and listen to it the way they intended it to be heard from start to finish. But now that I've heard these songs that are dotted out throughout the timeline of the album, because they never release the singles in the order and what they are on the album, you know what I mean? It's like you're not really hearing it right. But then when it come to the song, I've already listened to that song like 50 times already.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
And so I'm like, next song. Yeah. And then it sucked not being able to hear it for the first time. Yeah. And then it's like now, so because we were thinking for the next release, should we put on some singles we've already released this year to put it on so there's more songs on there, and then it's like, but are people going to listen to it? But then at the same time, if we get new fans, because we're obviously not really an established band yet, with a solid fan base, it's like maybe if we do have them older singles on there, people will hear see the new album, have a listen, and then be exposed to them songs they wouldn't usually discover. Maybe I don't know. It's such a hard one, and there's no real answers to it either, because I think everyone's still new-ish in a way. The whole thing, isn't it? Really, like it's always evolving, isn't it? So
it is.
It's hard to really. I'm sure there's probably some record exec out there that knows exactly what you need to do, but it's like no one that I wouldn't be able to have access to pick their brain about. Yeah. So it's all just guessing at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agreed. And it comes back to that platform thing as well, because all the platforms are changing, algorithms are changing, and everyone's doing things for whatever reason. But I suppose for me, I just haven't picked which one I'll go down and which direction I'll take as far as creatively doing it. The songs are written, but they're just not recorded properly. You know what I mean? That's how so if I do the single thing, I might even consider just focusing on one track for a while. Yeah. Putting that out, and then, or do I do them all and then do it all afterwards? Which can be a pain, because I improvise a lot, and I like to do long sections of improvised stuff because, or not improvised, I like to record things over a whole section, because I like to play over bars, and it's a little harder for me to drop myself in and keep that feel. So
yeah, I understand what you mean.
So I do the whole section, But by the time you've written, like, say, 5 songs worth of solos, I have no idea what was, that first song.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and, if I'm going to, redo it or, do a video for it, I have to go back and go over that song. Because it's definitely not something that I can just walk out and perform. Because it's like a gazillion notes away from me.
Yeah.
So maybe one track at a time, I can, keep that song in my brain, you know what I mean? And
work
go
out
do
exactly
some
what
videos
you're
and work
doing
on
with
it, and then delete it and work on to the next one.
Yeah. So when you're composing all your own stuff, do you have like a friend you send it to that? Because there's people that I send stuff to. I've sent stuff to you, and gone, what do you think? Is there anything you reckon I should change?
Yeah.
Because all my bandmates, I'll send it to them. But if obviously you don't have bandmates, so it's like, who do you bounce off? Because you always kind of need someone to go, man, look, I reckon you probably went a bit far on that bit. Maybe wind that back a bit, or that's really cool. Do that again, or
when I did the first one, a lot of friends. Usually, people from, my old bands over here. So someone like Shannon, who played in Vespers, and Jimmy from Mason. Mm-hmm. He was a big help as well to send stuff to and, let him. But back then, because I hadn't done a solo thing and I was really nervous about it, because, it's nerve-wracking as hell to put yourself out there like that. I needed guitar players that I knew to... I don't think they would even critique it, but I needed their... not their approval, but their... what's the word? I'm trying to think of encouragement. Yeah. To make the next step, because I think I already knew that the parts were on there were the best I could ever do. You know what I mean? Like I could, if they said, "Oh, that part's shit," do a better one. I probably couldn't have done it anyways. Do you know what I mean? I was like, that's all I got. That album, I put everything I had on it. So I was a goner. If somebody said that was shit, then that was just delete to the whole thing. You know what I mean? I needed encouragement more to have the faith in myself to release something like that. Because I've always been the band guy. You know what I mean? I write riffs, and I write choruses. That's my main thing. Composing a song where a singer sings on it, and I get like the solo section and another guitar player do another solo section, and if I can, I always have a dual guitar part in there. Yep. And that's my skill set. So do you when you write songs, do you typically write for a vocal to go over it, or do you just write riffs and then the vocalist would have, for when you're in a band? In Mason, say you're writing riffs, did you write it with the vocal in mind on how it's going to go on there, or do you just write it and you're like, he'll be able to work out how to go on it? Kind of. It's kind of like that, where I never write lyrics. Only lyric stuff I've ever done is when the song's pretty much written, and somebody says, "Oh, what line should go here?" And I go, "Oh, what about that?" Yeah, that's that's the best I've ever done. I can suggest and help with things, but it's more like I write a riff that I think is going to be killer for a singer to sing over. Yeah, and I just give it to them, and and whatever comes back, I'm usually super stoked with, because that's what I wrote it for somebody to let loose over the top of it. And when they do, I'm like, do you ever happy.
With a riff? Because sometimes you'll write a riff and it'll be a while before the singer puts any vocals on it, so you might listen to it in your car for 2 months. Yep. Do you ever have vocal lines in your head? You're like, oh. Not necessarily words, but phrasings, and you might go to, man, I really reckon this will go like this over this would sound better, because that note that I did there, I reckon it'd be cool if you accent with that or something. Definitely. Did you ever do like kind of coach the singer in a way, like coach him to that riff? Go, I want you to do it like that.
Yeah, I have, but I don't think my ideas were
as good as theirs.
As good as theirs, yeah. Okay, I think I usually get trumped on ideas. Yep. Usually, because it's just I'm just not.
It's not your forte.
Yeah, I'm not really good at that at all. I have something that I think is really awesome, and somebody will just come in and they're automatic, and I suppose that's what they do. You know, they're constantly writing lyrics over riffs, and that, you know, they're usually the singer's first initial feeling towards it. I'm just like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. So
yeah,
I let them have it because
it's their thing.
Yeah, but you know what, you can get stuck on an idea. You know, you used to listening to it and you've got that thing in your head, and then somebody comes and brings something different to the table. That can take a bit to get used to. Yeah. But I always find I'm usually wrong.
But it's usually always better though, eh? That's like a funny thing. I need to stop listening to my mixes.
Yep. Okay.
And I put that in quotes because I can't mix. I fucking suck. And I don't even attempt to. I just chuck a bit of it, like an EQ on there, and mess with the volumes a bit and go, man, that sounds cool enough for me to listen to in my car. And then I'll listen to it so many times that by the time I send it to Gareth...
it becomes the mix, doesn't it? Yeah. And it comes back different. Yeah, I get you.
Stop doing this because it fucking ruins it for me, because then I'll send it to Gareth and of course his mix is better than mine. Of course. It's what his job is. Yeah. So it's always going to be better.
But because you're used to it...
I'm like, oh, man, and I'm always... Not always, but probably 75% of the time, so disappointed at first. But then when I listen back later, I'm like, fuck, it's so much better. But I needed to have diluted the other mix in my mind. Yeah. You know, I need to listen to this new mix so many times to just push that other one out of my head. And then I'll go back and listen to that old mix like a month later. I'm like, fuck, what was I thinking?
That's it.
And then, but... It's so weird how that's like with a new mix, how it's so polarizing. The way it's supposed to sound is polarizing compared to your mix you thought was really cool.
I think a good way of thinking of that one is if anybody ever remixed TNT, I'd be upset. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it is actually a rad mix. I mean, that album is fucking awesome. Yeah. But, you know, with the technology and everything, if somebody was to redo that, it would sound... 1,000 times better just because of the limitations. But I would be so upset.
That's like Justice for All. When people add bass into it, it's like...
That's a good point.
It's like, it sounds wicked with a bass. And
but that's not that's not the album that I...
For some reason, I just love that guitar tone and the drum sound and the vocals. I don't know, it's etched in my brain. Yeah. And that's the way that album is supposed to sound, in my opinion. And it sucks for Jason, but I don't know. I just fucking love it. I love the sound of that. It sounds there's cool, something like ferocious about that album. Yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a cool sounding album, I think. But 100%. Yeah, if you were to change it, it's not the album that you grew up with. So it's like. No, you're messing with the wrong thing here. You know what I mean? One thing. We're talking about you with a mix that, over a couple of months. I mean, something you grew up with.
You've been listening to it for 30 odd years. But one album that benefits from a mix every time. It's a Metallica album. You're going to know what I'm going to say.
Wouldn't be saying anger.
But man, I've heard some mixes where people have really spent some time on it, and I'm not hugely a big fan at all of the compositions on that album, but there's some cool riffs. Some of the riffs have got a cool groove to them and a bit of a drive to them. Yeah, and they had a vibe on there that would have been cool if it was exploited in the right way, I think. Yeah. But when you do hear on YouTube, some people have got their hands on it and done some wicked mixes, and it's like, man,
I haven't checked them. I have to check
some
it out.
Of it's okay. I probably still wouldn't listen to it in my car or anything like that. Yeah. But credit where credit's due. Is like actually that would have been a lot more palatable to listen to if it had been mixed like this rather than whatever the fuck they were going for, because it's fucking terrible in my opinion. But
it is.
But oh well.
But I think going back to me sort of getting something out there. I needed a push from people that I knew wouldn't lie to me. Because some people say like, oh yeah, it's really good, just because
Yeah, like your parents are like, I'm so proud of you. That's really nice.
But I needed somebody that would say, if it was shit, don't do it. You know what I mean? They would have said, don't do it. And I don't think the CD's that good. Like, you know, obviously time goes by, and you reflect on it. And
I like it. I listened to it a while ago in my car after you came around and hung out that time.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I reckon if it was maybe I think the mix could be a bit better though.
And the mix was all me. So I did
sorry.
that. No, it's totally fine. Because I had no idea what I was doing either. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I just didn't have the cash. I didn't, you know what I mean?
I just think it would benefit.
100%. It's
better mix.
Yeah. Don't. I'm not offended at all. Because you know, that's one thing you do. You reflect on these things, and of course, the further time you get away, you know, I'm actually surprised it sounds as good as it does, considering what I did. I mean, I was just chucking stuff in there. I was sort of like, I was working full time and I was just doing it at night time, and I'd fall asleep on my guitar some nights, and I have no idea how I even managed it.
Did you do the drums yourself?
Yeah, programmed it in.
What with?
Would have been you know, like a Superior drummer thing or something like that. And it was I think, you know, from that time, from releasing it and reflecting on it, I've spent a lot of time on my, you know, production skills because of that. And that's kind of cool. I think that was a good thing because, you know, now I'm probably a little more reluctant to release things because of the production. Yeah. But back then I wasn't, you know, I couldn't give a fuck. I was just like, I'm putting it out. Which I kind of like admire that attitude that I had back then, because I certainly don't have it now. Yeah. Where I'm a lot more cautious. Where before I was just like, am I shredding? Yeah. It's the shred is what matters. The guitar lines, you know. Yeah. Are right. And fuck it, who cares about the rest? And that's something I kind of miss about myself. But then again, you know, whatever's the best for the music.
You got to bite the bullet at some point, because then sometimes I'll sit on things too long and overanalyze it to the point I don't enjoy it anymore, if that makes sense. Because then I'll critique it that bad. Yeah. Because, you know, like you were saying, you just were like, fuck it, I'm getting it out there. And then, you know, other times you're like, no, wait, I want to really make sure. And then you're like, maybe I could change this, and then before you know it, it doesn't represent what it did before, and then it's become this contrived thing that you've, and then you know what I'm getting at, and then
I think the way I approached it was lucky that I got the ideas out. I captured the ideas and the way I was playing, and that was the most important thing. I think it wasn't a polished thing. But now I'm probably more cautious than what I need to be now because of it. Because I've done other stuff after that, and, you know, with, you know, some success and some not success. And, you know, the more times that you realize you can do better, the more, you know, longer you put into it, you know, or time you put things off trying to work on stuff. So,
but it's good you put it out, because you're going to have that datum point of where to, like a reference point, you know what I mean? Because if you don't have anything out, you don't have anything to compare your stuff to, that you're writing new stuff, you know what I mean? Whereas if that's out, any new stuff, you know, you can see how far you've come as well, and you learn from everything too, don't you? Yeah. Like there's songs we put out a year ago that I'm like, if I wrote that now, if I could rewrite that, fuck, that's not going to be way better now. Yeah. But it's only knew that because I put it out and finalised the song and put it out, and it's, you know what I mean, and in its final state where you can't fuck with it anymore. Now it's now on Spotify. You can't do shit. Yeah. That's it. That's
kind of like a good thing, isn't it? It's like a nice feeling.
And that's what I'm getting at. And then it's good because then that's out, and it's forced you to be okay with it. Yeah. And then you learn. You have
to move past it at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
I don't think the sounds are necessarily bad. I think some production stuff would have made it a bit.
I think it
bit
clarity,
nicer to
clarity
listen.
was. I think it could have probably the mix could have had a bit more clarity. I think from memory, I thought it might. I think it was a little muddy or something.
Yeah, I probably chucked way too much low end.
I think that's what it was.
Because back then when I was mixing that sort of stuff, that's kind of like the way I looked at it. I was like, you know, I was not the best at cutting frequencies, and you know, I was more of a booster than I was a cutter. So that was where I went wrong there. And now I'm definitely, you know, a lot better at that. However, I think the playing was you know, was really good.
Yeah,
I think the guitar sounds weren't all that good. Like the lead sound, I'm not happy at all with that.
Yeah,
never was. But like sometimes I listen to it. There's fuck all gain on that, and it's like I don't even know how I pulled off some of those lines with that, you know, shitty fucking no gain guitar sound. You know what I mean? Like, how did I do that? Yeah. But back then, different times in my life, I suppose. My hands do get stronger. And I can do that if I'm playing a lot at that time. Like at that time, Mason was doing heaps of shows, tours and shows, and I was doing that through the week, and I was teaching guitar and everything. So, you know, my hands were like onto it. Yeah. And also, you know, my right hand and everything. So there's no fucking edits and cover ups and bullshit on that. Everything is like, the whole section is a one take.
Yeah, that's mad. I can't even do that with a riff.
I didn't even. Well, yeah, you know, it's kind of weird because I think when you're flowing over a, you know, I spend a lot of times on the riffs. Yeah, like I think the rhythm playing on that is awesome. I listened to it the other day. It comes up randomly because I've got like the ones to play to without the solo on. Yeah, and it just comes up when, you know, when iPhone just picks up something random. Yeah. And I listen to the rhythm tracks, and they're spot on. I like, fuck. There's probably rhythm tracks are better than solo tracks. But when they're like solid, and you're just like flowing over the top, it's a lot easier. You know what I mean? If a riff is sloppy, or, you know, your solos have got to be, you know, it's harder to gel. It's harder, you know, if something's off, you've got to, you can play a solo over something that's sort of out to make it feel like it's in, and it's not obvious because everything's flowing. Not everything has to be perfectly in time all the time. You could just you can flow something over and even it all out, and it works. So given that, you know, the rhythms were pretty rock solid, it was a lot easier to, you know, to just say, hey, this is the section. I'm just gonna fly over and see how I feel and see what happens. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll have to have another listen to it again because it was obviously a while ago, and we'll check it out, check the riffs out. And you know, for me is like the next thing is I can't wait to, you know, release something that is that production wise is that level up. Solo wise, I'm not sure if it's going to be that much more crazier. I don't think the ideas are going to be better. My playing it's not going to push the physical shred barrier any more than that. But I think the musical ideas are way better. Yep. And, you know, and production will be the focus. And I can't wait to do that because that'll finally, like, you know what I mean? Once it's out and it's there and it's you know, it's sort of what's the word? It sort of like oversteps what was done before. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. I'm keen to hear it. How much have you got written?
So I've got a good 10 songs that I'm happy with. Yeah, a lot more than that, but 10.
That's a lot of songs
that I'm happy with. Yeah. So whether I might maybe do maybe an EP or something.
Good three song singles are cool too, I think.
Yeah,
some bands do that. Get a nice chunk of music. Because sometimes you get one single and you're like, I just want just one more song to be
yeah.
And then the three-song singles are really cool. Yeah, Machina did that. Yeah. I'm gonna rip that off.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Heaps of bands probably do it, but
yeah, probably. I don't know. I think I have been seeing more just straight singles lately. So
yeah.
That's a good idea.
Especially if you've got a trilogy of songs that goes well together. You know what I mean? Because sometimes a band will release a single and then you hear it on the album and it's like not a 3-part, but it goes well with a couple of songs. You're like, man, that song goes really a lot better with them songs either side of it. So if they'd have released it like that would have been cool, you know, to hear the song the first time. With something either side, you know. Sometimes the song goes like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 'cause sometimes, when something first comes out, you go to it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's done now.
Yeah.
Give me more.
Yeah, definitely. So, another thing I was going to ask you as well is, so yes, how did you get? There's a nursery in the background.
Nice.
We're actually got this podcast set up at the local daycare. They rent me a space. But oh yeah, guitar. How did it all start?
So I wanted to. Well, first I did actually want to play guitar. I just wanted to play, and
how old were you?
I was pretty young. Got an acoustic guitar, like a nylon.
But what were you seeing that made you want to do that?
I don't know. I think I was one of those kids that just wanted to play, and it wasn't really into it.
Saw like it on TV, or your dad's friend had a guitar.
Yeah, just like more like hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to do sport? Do you want to do? And I was like,
guitar.
Chicks. And I was like, I just picked something.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I lived out in a place called Westaway is like an hour out of Hobart, Mountfield National Park's way in Tasmania. So it's pretty.
Oh, so you
so it was pretty remote.
Yeah, right.
And
our guitarist grew up there as well. You might be related.
Yeah, probably. Well, I wasn't born there, so I'm from New South Wales originally, but I sort of grew up in Tassie.
Yeah.
And sort of, I don't know, I just wanted to do it, and I got lessons from a guy that was in town, and he said said to my mum just don't worry about this kid, because I just wasn't into it, you know what I mean? Like it was just an idea.
He's Baba, Black Sheep, and Three Blind Mice.
I have no idea because I can't really even remember, but I certainly wasn't into it. You know what I mean? I just thought, I'll do guitar because whatever, and then and just sort of like it just didn't go anywhere. So the guitar went into the closet there, and then when the first day of high school. I bumped into an old buddy of mine who I used to know from primary school. We used to move around a lot, but we ended up in the same high school. He goes, come into the music room, and I was like, yeah, cool. I don't know anyone else. I know this guy. Old friend of mine. So of course I'm going to hang out. And we walked into the music room, and that high school, all these kids had already been in primary school together, you know what I mean? So I was just the addition to the high school because I lived more, out, half an hour that way.
Yeah.
So I've walked in and the kids played some rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? They played, whatever was on the radio. They played, they probably played like a Metallica song or something like that. I can't even remember what it was. But the thing that blew my mind is that they played it together. There was a drummer, a guitar player, and a bass player. Yeah. And they were just going through riffs, the riffs that they knew. They're like, what about this riff? And whatever was on the radio. And I thought that was literally the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. So it wasn't the guitar per se. It was people playing music together and just rocking it out. And so I was just like, well, show me. What the hell were you guys doing? Yeah. And it was really cool because my buddy, he had a big family. So, what would happen is he had a lot of older brothers and they would learn, the latest Metallica song or whatever, whatever was out. And they would teach it to each other. And eventually it'd end up with my buddy and he would teach us, you know what I mean? And then, of course, he's got like younger siblings as well. And, it'd take them a couple of weeks to get it. So it just kind of like went down. And, so whatever song would come out, we'd all be waiting for the, we'd hear the older brothers playing, playing, I don't know, Ride the Lightning, say, for example, you know what I mean? And we're like, it's coming, guys. We're going to learn how to do this. And I learned, stuff like pentatonic scales. I learned how to play rock and blues and, just things. and I really enjoyed doing it. Like, you know, I really enjoyed playing, you know, whatever, you know, sometimes it might have been a Jimmy Barnes song or something, whatever was big at the time. And I enjoyed laying it down with the rest of the guys. That was my favorite part, you know, just playing and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where it all came from.
Did you pick up guitar pretty easy? Did you find that you were...
I did, oddly enough. So that first bit, learning riffs, was a lot of fun. Yeah. Because, you know, as soon as you play that power chord and it all comes to, you know, I really enjoyed it. I sort of got right into that. And then when I learnt how scales relate to music. Yeah. So I would have been in like, I don't know, grade 8 maybe.
Yeah, right.
Sort of like 8, 9.
So 13, 14?
Yeah. So, probably more 14, 15, I reckon. So, so whatever grade I would have been in. I realised how it all worked together, and I got hooked on that. I got hooked that if you play this note and somebody else is playing that note, it makes everything shine. Sort of thing. So I got hooked on that. I really started to explore the guitar, all the notes, and how everything bounced off the rhythm basically, and my fingers started to develop. So a lot of times I might have just been just up and down, just see what sounded good. But I could do, I didn't really have any distractions back then. I lived in the middle of Tasmania, with zero, internet and zero, anything really. So I had a lot of time to really focus on just what those notes sounded like, and if I came up with a trick, if I learned a trick or something, like a trill or something, then that was like my week. You know what I mean? That was
trilling for a week.
Yeah, you imagine after that week, my trills were down. You know what I mean? And I had like shit equipment. Action like this on my guitars and.
It's probably a good thing to have the action that high when you're learning, get the strength up.
That's it. So I was just working on these little things. So I spent heaps of time. So my, I suppose all the little things, my technique, every little thing is pretty solid as far as, my rhythm playing, coming from like blues to the simple rock songs. So even at the start, my right hand, AC/DC was a huge part for me, huge influence. Malcolm's playing is insanely in time, and his ability to hit something in a certain way and make the guitar ring a certain way. I got right into that. So I had the time, I had the and no distraction. I could really, so all of the by the time I'm shredding and playing real fast stuff, I had like a really solid grounding before I moved on to the next thing, because I suppose musically that's how I progressed as well. So I progressed slowly through that. I certainly just didn't go 12-bar blues to like tech shred straight away. I really did go through all my influences, and the Angels and stuff like that. I learnt I could play. I have the record and play along with it, and my pick strokes were like the same.
Bang on, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously as you get better, but at the time, that's what I was so focused on.
Yeah, that's good.
I love those two bands. I love the pick strokes. Just so in time, and it's my favorite thing is that everything's just coming through.
So locked in. I wish I'd focused more on that, because... that's definitely timing's always been an issue of mine, for sure.
And I enjoyed it too. That was the other thing. Actually, I could sit and play one of those songs and have an absolute blast because I just love it. I think it's fantastic. So a lot of people don't know that I can play. Things that aren't as, what they usually see with all the fingers and everything. Yeah. I could do that. And that's what I listen to a lot of the times. I listen to, those old rock bands, and like Midnight Oil and things like that.
Yeah.
I love all
that stuff. Yeah.
And I listen to the guitar parts and I love it. But then at some point, obviously I got into Metallica. You know what I mean? And so that I was ready for Metallica because James has got a great picking hand.
Yeah.
And I was ready for it. My picking was already solid, but obviously it wasn't like, I wasn't doing double downs and like fast little gallops and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was at the good stage to start picking that up, and so James, and back then the only footage of like players that you could get was Metallica.
Yeah,
so
because they were televised a lot.
That's
and,
it,
like,
yeah.
video and
that's right.
stuff. Yeah,
and they were the only band that sort of like you might get the odd. I don't think even Megadeth had like a live thing out, or if it was hard to get. It would have been for me. So yeah, I could see him play. I could see his like right hand, and
did you know it was all down picks? Did you know that?
Yeah, I noticed a lot of it. From I think what was it? The Cliff Moore video was out, so you could see him play. And what else was out? I think eventually, the Year and a Halves came out.
Yeah,
and that was around about the time I was probably getting good. Well, good enough, I should say. I wasn't good. I was good enough to take it on and start looking at it. So yeah, heaps of footage of him playing, and I literally copied his hand. Like you watch my hand, it's exactly the same. It's held the same, and it's it does the same sort of thing because I had nothing else to go by. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it was like probably a blessing because I haven't actually had much. I don't think I've had much trouble taking on because as obviously metal got more technical, I kept doing the same thing. So I would just I had Rock down, then I had the James Hetfield down, and then whoever came out next, I was ready to take it on.
When it came to leads, who were you influenced most by?
So Angus would have been the first.
Yep.
And that I think again is another good person to have as your first influence.
Yeah.
Because he's a lot of bands, a lot of cool stuff that was pentatonics, not too not too crazy, but some awesome ideas in there that sort of set me up. And I forgot the guy's name from the Angels, Brewster. His melodies and that sort of thing, and then of course Dave Murray from Iron Maiden was a big one for me as well. So he would play super fast and super flowy and really melodic. So that was another thing that sort of I liked that.
Yeah,
you flick the to the neck pickup for your solo.
Yeah.
So that's why I flick mine
Yep.
up, because at some point I just thought that's how you played. I didn't realize that you could still solo with your bridge pick. I was like, why would you do that? It doesn't even make sense. And I see these other people do it, and I'm like, are they on the wrong pickup? And
Do
I
you
realize
ever play with the bridge pickup?
I do now. I do. Yeah, I do now.
Is it depending on what kind of sound you're going for?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And these days I use the bridge more than than the neck. But through that whole period, I would just flick to the neck because that's what I thought you did.
Yeah.
And I played very similar to him because I just loved it. And then eventually got into obviously in there was Megadeth as well. So that was a very early influence. I wasn't ready to take on Poland stuff though.
Yeah.
There was no way. I was just like listening to that, and it was.
What about like Friedman stuff?
Friedman's as well. I think I wasn't ready to take on that, but I loved it because those two are huge influences because I didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. And I found that really fascinating that they were doing stuff that was a little out there and I couldn't comprehend it. Yeah. And I found that exciting. So in a way that sort of sent me in my more crazy direction. Yeah. Because I wanted to be like that. Yeah. I wanted to be like, I wanted people to listen to my stuff and go, what the hell is going on there? Yeah. Where other guitar players, I got it to a point where I kind of picture what they were playing. I could work it out quickly. Yeah. Those dudes, and I thought they were doing crazy techniques or whatever. Just their phrasing was clever, and I was like, how did they come up with that idea? I had no idea where it was coming from. And I still don't, because I don't want to I don't want to demystify it too much.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love it. That they are who they are, and I got actually one video. I got the Marty Friedman video, and I chucked it on. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play exactly like Marty Friedman. I'm gonna do everything, and he's like, he puts it on. He goes, oh, whatever you do, don't play like me. Take these ideas and do your own thing. And I was like, oh man, I just bought this thing trying to be like you.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me not to.
Yeah.
But I took that, I took it, and I was like, you know what? He's probably right there. I probably shouldn't, copy everything he does. And
just take bits from him and bits from other players and incorporate it into your own and make your own thing. Because he's always had awesome vibrato, I thought. And
it's awesome, yeah.
And Chris Poland's always had awesome bends, weird bends.
Weird, yeah.
Real weird.
Yeah.
Strange.
He's, I was watching, because Poland's one of my favourites. I follow pretty much everything he does. So, if he's done a podcast, I would have heard it. But yeah, he's, the story behind his bends is he liked a lot of keyboard players that use the use the wheel, the pitch wheel.
Yeah.
So he can emulate that on a guitar.
Yeah.
Where you're playing a line, and if you were to play a
That's
line,
so strange.
if you could play a line and flick it
up,
he can actually do that. So I think it's
cool.
insane
Because it's hard to replicate that.
Yeah. But it's brilliant, and of course that's where he gets all those crazy ideas from.
Yeah. Because I watched a video of him. I don't know if it was at NAMM or something, but he was just everything. The way he's playing is just strange. The way his fretting hand is and picking hand, it's different.
It is
really different. And then I thought there's that other guys that Megadeth got were pretty good as well. With the Drover,
good guitar
Sean
player,
and Glenn or something. Yeah, they're awesome.
Broderick's a good player.
Yeah,
always. And Kiko, of course, is a great player.
Yeah, Kiko's awesome. Yeah, really good.
But for some reason, those two are my favourite.
Yeah, they're definitely the most standout of all the guys, or the most unique. Like I think the other members are more interchangeable. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like the other guitarists they got later are more interchangeable easily, whereas Marty and Poland were so unique they really defined the sound a lot. Whereas Megadeth now, or since them, their lead guitarist hasn't defined the sound as much as those guys defined. If that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I think what else is there? There was other influences as well around that time. I shouldn't leave out. Joe Satch was another one.
Yep.
And you know what? Slash and Kirk Hammett were two that I was really into too in the early days. Two players that. Yeah.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, no worries. Cut. It's cute as. Was that an apology? Would I love you to get out of trouble?
No, this wife. She's feeding the little one, but it's loud.
That's what my kids do. I love you, Dad. Get out of trouble.
Yeah.
Get out of trouble, free card.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so where were we? Other influences? Yeah.
James Murphy.
Who's that?
James Murphy played for. He was sort of like a death metal, not quite session guy, but he played on Spiritual Healing, the Death album. He played he played on like all these one-offs. Cause of Death by Obituary. He played on Cancer album. He had his own band, but he did two albums with Testament.
Yeah.
Testament, I was a huge fan of both Alex Skolnick and James Murphy.
James Murphy.
Yeah, both equally.
Yeah.
So James played on Low, and I think he played on the album after that. I can't remember. He does a couple of solos on the Gallery as well.
Oh, was he just was he doing guest stuff on there, or was he?
No,
actually
he was
a
in the
member?
band. He was in the band.
Oh, really? Who was he replacing?
So Alex was originally in,
Yeah.
and then he left, and then Alex came
Oh,
back. So,
okay, right. Yeah.
So both
So
those,
Eric was being there the whole time.
yeah. So he
Does
just
Eric
left for
play
the
leads?
Yes, yeah. Alex, sorry, my apologies. Alex Skolnick was the lead guitar player.
Yeah.
Eric plays leads as well. He plays
Okay.
leads on that low album too.
Oh, yeah,
and,
right.
and they're awesome.
Yeah.
So Alex was up until James, and then came back again. And I love both of them equally, because they're both those guys, whenever they play the other person's solo, you know what I mean. I love them. But
Yeah.
So say for example, Alex Skolnick does a James Murphy solo.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And other way around, if James played the Alex Skolnick ones, I love them. But both those players I loved. Equally, in there with, in my opinion, with Poland and Marty Freeman.
Yeah.
But yeah, followed those guys a lot. Then Joe Satch, and I got into the the instrumental music thing. I suppose that's where that came from. Steve Vai and whatnot from there. So influence wise, those guys, and then I don't know. I think other than that, I was entering more the death metal type thing as well.
Yeah.
So it was
Pete Sandoval, or how do you say his last name? Sandoval,
from
Morbid Angel.
oh okay yeah
He's got a really weird style of solos, doesn't he?
yeah super
Crazy. Random. They're real random.
Trey played the solos on those
Trey.
ones, and
I'm thinking of the drummer.
Yeah.
Trey, that's right. Yeah.
And those stuff was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I was huge into those guys, and then I sort of found Entombed, one of my favorite bands of all time. Absolutely nothing to do with what I do at all, but it's my favorite. It's kind of like another thing that people are sort of surprised about, that Hypocrisy and some of those Swedish death metal bands that don't really shred or anything like that. They just write great songs. I also like my favorites. That's what I listen to majority of the time. That was by that time I think I'd gotten most of my chops down. I probably wouldn't say I was the best lead player at the time. My rhythm playing was on it. I could comfortably say I was a good player rhythm wise. Lead wise, I could play fast. I could play real fast legato, and I just relied on that.
Yeah, okay.
I was just like, I can play fast. I got enough bends. I can play some pentatonic stuff. That'll do me. You know what I mean? And the early Vesper stuff was all that. And I was just relying on rhythm chops, fast legato, and some bends. And I don't think they were. It was at some point I was like, I have to really reflect on this. I know I'm. I could play flashy stuff, and people go, wow, that's really fast. But I realized it wasn't really, I needed to do more. Yeah. And I found, sweep picking was one thing I couldn't do. Pretty much everything except for legato and bends. I did the Satch thing. I could play like Satch, so he was my god at that point. Yeah. So I could play everything that Satch did.
Did he never really sweep much?
He does a little bit. It's not a full like metal sweep though. He can sweep.
Yeah, Marty Friedman's like that too, isn't he? He doesn't really sweep a whole lot.
Yeah, he does little ones and stuff. Yeah,
I remember seeing an interview where he made it clear that he's not a big fan of the endless sweeps that people do. Yeah. Is more of use it a little bit here and there. That's tastefully. Yeah.
But at the same time, I had all these influences where somebody like James Murphy could sweep like ridiculous. And then, Alex Skolnick could do all these, great musical ideas. He could alternate pick and sweep and tap and do all these things and all these things. And I don't know, I suppose I was getting to the point where I was realizing where my limitations were, and I could pinpoint all the things that I should be doing. Yeah. I didn't really want to do it because, I was getting by. Yeah. And so I decided, bugger it, I'm going to get a metronome and I'm going to do it. And like in like a couple of years of full on woodshed, just like going through metronome at like 50, alternate picking, because, you know, when you legato for so long, it's really hard to, you can already play the line really fast and flowy.
Synchronization up.
Yeah, it's almost like, why do I want to put like years of practice into something just to make it sound, you know, little, you know, have a different texture to it, which is really, it's the same line, but with different texture.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you know, I had to come to terms that was something you had to do if you want to become a better player, and you want to do, you know, if you want that texture, you got to have the chops there.
Yeah.
You know, if it sounds better, then why you can't wuss out on this stuff and say, nah, I'm just going to legato it.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's just not the right attitude to have. So I had to fix my attitude a lot, because I think my abilities had got me so far, and I could rely on them. But I had to look deeply, go through it, and it was not easy. I had to set the metronome to super slow, and my sweeps were same. So alternate picking, I had to go tick, tick, down, up, because that's how ingrained I was into what I could do before.
Yeah.
So I had to do that, and I was really bad at that. Like, I'd be like down, up, down. Oh,
Yeah.
I felt like Homer. Because I couldn't get that old sort of thing out of me. So I'd get it right, and then I'd go to 51. You know what I mean, or whatever the next notch was on my thing would have been like 55, and then I'd do it again.
Yeah.
And until eventually I'd get to a swing, and then it'd be like, you know, tap, 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 da, 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 da. It'll be like something like that. Not ridiculously fast, but, you know, it was, you know, for me, it was like, trying to keep up with the metronome. If I was ever like that, I'd just pull it back, and I sort of went back to the early days of, you know, where I used to, you know, play an AC/DC song for 3 days straight and nail it. I was like, well, I just have to do the same thing with this. I have to do it for 3 days straight, nail it, then I go up another. Yeah. And same with the sweeps. It was exact same. It was like, you know, hammer on, down, 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 and back.
Yeah.
And then, you know, same thing, just went mainly that stuff. So then I got the alternate picking down, I got the sweep picking down. Probably still wasn't very good at you know, the fretboard knowledge. You know, I knew this part of the fretboard and rip it up. I could rip it up here, but in the middle I'll be like, yeah, we'll stay away from that. There's a couple of things I might know, you know, that's about it. So that was another thing I had to like reflect on. It's like, there's a whole part of the fretboard you don't know. Yeah. Someday you're gonna have to do it.
Well, this is embarrassing to admit, but I only realised this is so bad that, you know, the first 12 frets. I only realised probably last year when was it last year I was getting lessons of? Yeah. We were talking about something. I don't know if I said it to you at the time, but I only realised that if I played on, say, the 15th fret, it's the same as playing on the 3rd fret.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, even though I knew that they were 12 notes apart, I didn't realise that the scale shapes up there, if you go like 3-5-7, 3-5-7, 4-5-7 or whatever, it's the same as going 15, 17, 19. Yeah. And I didn't, the correlation of the dots. Yeah. It's so embarrassing. I'd been playing like 18, 19 years, and it's so dumb. And I'm like, I've been in bands and I don't even know that shit.
There's still stuff that I come across and I'm like, what? How did I not know that? Yeah. It's just the way it is. I think, and if you don't come across the knowledge at the time, like I remember the fretboard to me had no correlation to anything. Every note was individual. Every song was individual because, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not until you play a certain amount of songs you realise that same chord is popping up, and that you know, an A and a G seems to come after each other a lot. So maybe they're related in some way, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's, you know, it's experience. You got to just like learn as many, and yeah, so that was a hard time actually. I don't think I think it might have been about 2 years before you started to see those sort of techniques come through. And then it was awesome. It was totally worthwhile because then, of course, now I can once you can alternate pick, you can alternate pick. So it's like, I mean, once you can sweep, and then you just change the patterns and you're learning more patterns, and you sort of like, the techniques are there.
Yeah,
you've got to keep them up.
Yeah.
But, then it was more like I don't have to worry about that stuff. I'm more worried about note choices and that sort of thing. So it was a pretty shit couple of years because, it was nothing but woodshedding, feeling bad about it. Not reaching. You get really fast one day, you come back the next day,
and you suck.
And you're like, you go straight up to 100. It's like, yeah, let's do it. But you realize
that's me every day.
It was like, come back down on the metronome. So yeah, that was rough, and but unfortunately, I still had my other chops, so I just used them, and I was still happy playing with people.
Yeah,
like if I was in a jam room jamming or on stage, and I was super happy.
What do you reckon the hardest thing to learn was? What was the thing that gave you the most?
Alternate picking, I think.
Yeah,
I think that was a lot harder than sweep picking.
Yeah, right. I find it the other way around. I just sweep picking still just. I have a hard time with it. Yeah. It's what it is. I don't practice enough. That's simple as it is. I just don't do it enough.
Yeah, well, I put myself through hell. And, I'm not sure if I would recommend that, but I don't know. I mean, I once it started happening and it started to feel comfortable, then happiness starts to creep back in. You know what I mean? And I think if it was just the fact that I could play all these things and I was, I had to, dig deep into myself was probably the hardest part. But once all that was there, it was good. I think really I had lots of chops. I probably really needed to focus a little bit more on note choices. Yeah. Because, the chops were starting to come through. Yeah. Where eventually that didn't take too long because at that point I was listening to, a lot of, I suppose more fusion players and at that point I became a huge fan of Brett Gused, who's sort of like famous for the after I learned all this other stuff, he just does nothing but legato and the what is it called, the finger hybrid thing. So that was like interesting. So I'm like, I've got myself up to where I thought was the thing. And then I go see somebody who does what I used to do, but like completely destroy everything. You know what I mean? He was playing levels above everything that I could do. And he was just doing, the legato thing. And I think, that was like another sort of thing that now I have to look at myself again. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I've learnt all these techniques. They're all there. But there's players out there that can just destroy everything you can do on just one of those techniques. So as much as you can learn, there's still deeper levels of everything. Guy out because I don't think I've heard any of it. I definitely haven't heard any of his stuff. Yeah, it's he's sort of like in the 90s he went to LA and did a lot of fusion stuff. Yeah, okay. Session guy, played with John Farnham and heaps of bands. So he's session guy for all that. And but yeah, through the 90s and afterwards, he did a lot of fusion stuff and it's rock and roll fusion and his own sort of thing. And a lot of the top guys will cite him as they all do. They all say the legato king is this guy. Yeah. So even people like Guthrie Govan and stuff like that will say, you want this is the guy, you know what I mean? And he got all his stuff from Alan Holsworth, so there's another level.
I've heard that name.
There's another level of stuff. I just relate to Brett's stuff. So I was learning, his style of thing, and what I loved about it is he would, he'd play a line, 3 notes here, and then he'd skip a string and play 1 note, and then skip another line and play 2 notes or whatever. So I really found it exciting because it brought me back to those, that feeling of what, Chris Poland and all those people were doing like that. What the hell is that? You know what I mean? Because at this point, 3 notes, everyone's shred. I could start to hear 3 everywhere. I could hear everyone going, I could hear 3. Everything's 3. Okay, what? I got
3. You start writing on the walls. 3.
Yeah.
3. Everything's 3. Grabbing people in the street. Everything's 3.
I was close to that.
He's like in numerology. Going,
everything equals 3.
Everything's 3. Everything equals 3. Well, a Jim Carrey movie.
It was kind of similar, and that's hilarious. And then I realized that Marty Friedman and all these guys were not doing 3s. So whenever they did something exciting, they were not playing the stock. They were doing something else. And so he was, I was like awake to it all. I could see, I was trying to learn his techniques because that was the first thing that I liked about Brett's was his technique.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning the techniques, and then I'm realizing his exciting playing is not just the technique, because that is certainly the thing, because it flows like better than most things that has ever flowed. But they're interesting ideas, and I thought, wow, that's cool. And that's around about the same time I was tapping with these two. Where's the camera? These two. I just thought that was fun, so I started tapping, sweeping, and doing a tap, and then go back down. And then I started tapping with 2 different fingers.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing happened. I'm learning Brett stuff at the same time, and he's doing 3 notes, 2 notes, and whatever, doing random stuff. That was sort of like my way of expanding the note choice.
Yeah.
Because I could do 1, 2, 3, 1, and then skip 1, 2, and I could shake it up a bit more. So my sweeps wouldn't just go. They could go. I could get that extra, that extra flow effect. Yeah. And often I don't even know what's going on, because I just know that if I add an extra tap, it puts everything off, because it's just one note, because it was 3 before, and now it's all off. Yeah. So I found that really fun. I could just do that, and then of course they started developing, sort of with each other, so I could add an extra thing. Yeah. And if I was to skip a string, then that adds another layer of stuff on top. So creatively, it was sort of like, oh, okay, I can do it all, and be experimental without having to alternate pick and count how many things were there. So I could just have a bit of fun and get those sorts of things that I'm enjoying as well. Yeah. So I'm doing it not knowing 100% what I'm doing, but I know it's shaking stuff up, and I enjoy it. That's really cool. At the same time, if I want to transition from a section to another section, like a rock and roll thing, I can alternate pick all the way to the top. Yep. If I want to sweep pick straight up and down, which I think has its place, I think it's cool. You know what I mean? And I think if you want that vibe, then it's there. Yeah. And of course, my legato was very Satch orientated, but nowadays it's sort of moving more towards Brett Garcet stuff, because I've been focusing on it a lot.
I'll have to check it out.
And then, of course, I've sort of also brought the hybrid thing in as well, because I've been practicing all Brett stuff. So there's so many techniques out there, and then you can obviously do your own thing, add your flavour to some things, and it'll become something else. And there's no shortage of things to get good at on the guitar. That's for sure. Man, it's and then of course you look at the different styles and. Jazz playing and it just gets out there.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And I think, I like mine because it's not too, far. It's definitely built within that shred. Doesn't, I can't say I can fusion it up or anything, but I'll learn it and try and incorporate it as much as I can. But
No, I reckon you got it down pretty good. Your repertoire is pretty well rounded.
Of chops.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, I don't know. I think rhythm playing is probably more my expertise, anyways.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I think I can lay down a rhythm better than I can a solo. But,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can't do either very good. I have my moments.
No, your chops are good. You got it.
I've got my moments, but the problem with me is consistency. I'm not consistent, you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, Jesus. Sometimes I surprise myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking hell. And then the next day I'm like, Jesus, the other way. Like,
Man,
that was bad.
Yeah. Consistency is, it's in itself is like something you have to practice. You know? It's like,
That's my biggest issue is I just don't practice enough. That's 100% of it. But to be honest though, I'm happy enough where I'm at. Like I'm good enough for what I do, if that makes sense.
and that's what matters in the end. It's kind of weird. It's not until when I first learned to sweep pick, and I was like, okay, cool, I can sweep pick now. I realized that sweep picking up and down the fretboard like constantly wasn't the coolest thing in the world.
No,
it's
super annoying.
It's like, but I only just learned how to do it. But I had to learn it in order to realize that it's not the coolest thing. I don't know why. I wish I was wise enough to go, Greg, you probably really shouldn't put yourself through all that because it's not the coolest thing in the world. Do you know what I mean?
But it's cool technique though. I love Joe Towle from Textures. He's got a cool sweep technique. It's not any awesome different to anyone else's, but he does a cool thing that when you go to the high E and where you sweep up, I guess, to it, and then say you go from 7 to 12, he will then slide his pinky up to 13 and then back.
Okay.
And then go back up. And just it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I don't really hear many people doing that, but I love his lead style. Yeah. It's really, really cool and really different.
Awesome player.
And that's the thing these days. It's hard to be a virtuoso these days, I think, because a lot's been done.
That's it.
It's hard to sound different to anyone else. And the only ways to really sound different, I guess, is which is with a lot of good players, is it's in their fingers. It's hard to emulate. You know what I mean? Like, like you were saying with Chris Polland and that, his bends, makes him a virtuoso in a way because if you hear him play, straight away you know exactly who it is. Yeah. And Friedman, you hear that, you know who it is. And then Dime, he was really good with his style for that. And then every time you hear a wah pedal, it's probably Kirk Hammett. So he's a virtuoso with his wah, I guess.
But it's also, I suppose there's like, it's even Malmsteen and people like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how the hell I missed him, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, but he's an obvious one. It's like
he's an obvious one. Yeah. His sweeps are ridiculous.
But then there's guys now that are even way different, like the Polyphia dudes. You know, what's that guy's name? That young fella that dresses like a grandma.
All right.
What's his name? Tim.
Oh, okay, yeah.
His name escapes me. But I guess that's a whole different thing now that he's doing. You know, everyone's doing the taps and slides and the weird kind of things. And and that's another new thing, I guess, that someone come up with. Well, it's probably been done before, but I mean... Yeah,
I think, I mean, that's a scary thing, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of the guy's name. Stanley Jordan was ripping our stuff up like way before. Like I'm not even sure whether he's doing that in the 80s or what. Okay, it's just like people that weren't necessarily big for it, they were already like ripping it. Yeah, well, there was the Andy.
I remember that guy, Andy McKee. Did you ever know?
No,
on acoustic. He was doing everything on acoustic, and he had them real weird ones.
Yeah.
And he was doing heaps of stuff where he was like flicking his hands and then like tapping on the guitar, doing the percussive stuff, but then tapping on the fretboard and sliding, and it was pretty intricate stuff for then. If you look at it now compared to what people are doing, it's a bit more agricultural, I guess, in a way, because it was, I'm not going to say he was pioneering that sound, but he was definitely one of the people at the forefront. When I noticed it anyway, he was the guy that was doing it.
Yeah.
And there was probably other guys doing it way before that you would be aware of that I wouldn't, because you seem to have a lot, more of a broader
I think
of,
with that acoustic stuff and the multiple tapping, I don't multiple tap anything. It's only single lines.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Probably because of the distortion, because there's so much gain going on.
Yeah,
I can't, you can do it like every now and then. Sometimes you might do it and bend it up, and it's kind of like multiple bending, like bluesy sort of stuff in a way.
Yeah.
But you certainly can't
No, I know
put some harmonies in there.
Yeah.
The guitar just freaks out.
Who's that? There's that other guy. What's his name now? He does a song called I think it's called Passion Flower. John Gomm. Heard of him?
No.
I think I'm saying his name right. It's, John, and then Gomme, and he does a thing where he does all the percussive crap and tapping and sliding, but then he messes with the tuning pegs and tunes up and down.
Yep.
And he sings at the same time. It's like, man,
it's ridiculous. Huh?
What are you going to do next? But he's really tasteful with it, because some people are super tacky because they discover that they could do something that's crazy, and they go overboard. He's really just found a cool thing to do with it.
That's cool.
It's awesome. But I guess that's what's happening now. You see so many Instagram guitarists doing the polyphia thing. And Tim Henson's his name. Yeah, that
Tim,
And
have you seen
it's not my thing, but everyone's fucking doing it now. You go on Instagram and everyone's tapping, and it's like...
have you seen the video with him with those guys on stage with Steve Vai?
Yeah. I saw that video, the proper official video they did.
No, they've done a live thing.
Oh, okay.
So they've jumped up on stage.
Was it good, or?
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So they really choked under the pressure and didn't really seem to have any real ability to play to a in time or creatively.
Yeah, well,
on a simple thing.
Well, I looked up some videos of I think it was polyphia and that, and just to me, it doesn't translate well live. Like, I was thinking I could not go to a gig like that and sit through that. But that's me. That's just my opinion, and I'm sure there's people that do dig it. But also, it wasn't as smooth, or it was nowhere near when they're playing their videos on YouTube and that, and you're seeing them doing it, and it's like clearly they're jumping in on certain bits and cutting and pasting. Like, it's gotta be because it's so clean and so smooth, and it's like, to pull that off live, you've got to be crazy good to, in a live setting, to be standing up doing that, and you know what I mean. And
that's it. And
it's written for people to look at through their phones, not to be played live. I don't think, because just in my opinion, when I saw some live stuff, I was just like, it just doesn't translate to me. It sounds like shit, to be honest. Yeah.
I haven't seen them play live. Their own stuff. I've only seen the. Basically, Steve's asked them to jump up on stage, and there's like a bit of a comp going on in the background. Yeah. And they were meant to do the swap, the G3 thing, where they all jump in and do a solo. Yeah. But they just don't seem to have the musical background to be able to do that. They, maybe they know how to play that one part that they know how to do for the video. Yeah. But I suppose, that's different. I suppose everyone's, you can't sit there and expect people to have that same musical aspirations that you do, because me, my gods can walk on stage and and be creative on the spot and do something amazing, and got all and that's what I aspire to, and that's what I like. But there's probably guitar players out there that can only play their own part, and they go up there and they go in there and they rock the place and leave. That's me.
If you ask me to improvise something, I'm just like,
but
I know this riff that I wrote before. Yeah. That's literally, I can't improvise, man. I can muck around with a few things, but I find I've got this little, very small bag of tricks.
Yeah.
and I keep going to it and overuse it and overuse it and overuse it. I just don't have a very big repertoire of heaps of shit to draw from, where because you've probably got like a vast knowledge of riffs and that when you were learning stuff. I never learnt anyone else's shit but my own, really. I learnt the odd Megadeth song here or the odd Machine Head one or Pantera, but I never really learnt like a full song. I'd get like most of the way through it, then I'd be like, I'm bored. And then I'd want to I've always just written my own stuff, so I don't have like a big, vast knowledge of riffs. Yeah. And not necessarily saying that say I asked you to improvise something, you're going to pull out a Slayer riff because you learn heaps of Slayer, but I meant you might just making riffs, because when you learn other riffs, you learn how they're composed and all that, and then on the spot you could probably make up a cooler riff than what I could, because you've just got a way more vast knowledge of different riffs, and you can kind of just blend them together on the spot and muck around, and because it's muscle memory, isn't all of it anyway? Guitar playing is muscle memory, so yeah,
it is a bit. But then again, there's the players that come up with the most iconic guitar parts that ever existed, and probably managed getting through a pentatonic scale or something.
Yeah.
But yet they've written something that's iconic and amazing.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but. I suppose they're the people I looked up to, so I tried to do what they did.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've realised over the years that probably going down that route probably wasn't the smartest thing. Maybe I didn't need to go so far on some of those things.
Yeah, but if it's worked for you, you know what I mean. Like, I think you. Well, obviously, I just love watching you play. I could just sit there and watch you play for hours, because you seem to have this endless stream of cool shit, and you don't really seem to really retread anything, if that makes sense.
It still happens.
Oh, of course it's gonna, because you're gonna have that bit where you're like, it's gonna happen. You can't just be endlessly creative for like 10 minutes straight and just not go back to the same idea at least once. But
I did this one for. A band called Rectify from Canada. They asked me to do a solo, and I was like, yeah, cool, because there's heaps of Chris Poland's going to be on the album, so I was like, I wanted to be on it, but I was moving at the time, so I wasn't going to be on it. And then Matt, the singer and guitar player, just said, look, can you, I want you to be on it. Can you be on it? I was like, yeah. I finally got set up, and so I did it real quick. Yeah. And he wanted video of it as well. And I've noticed one thing doing this guitar stuff, the video is, if you want to mime or something, like if you want to or learn it again. So if you go do a video clip for something, like playing all those lines again perfectly for a video is just like, I can't be bothered. Like it's too much. So I just put the video on, press record, and I thought I'll just do everything. I'll just do in one take. So I'm just a one take person now, because I can't be bothered, going back and learning it again for him, and then you know what I mean, and re-recording.
And I noticed with your playing as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your, it is really improvised. A lot of it, like it's. I can tell that you'll be just smashing something out, and if you go, what would you do that? Can you do that again? You'll be like, I can't remember what I did.
Absolutely,
because you were in the moment.
It's gone.
Yeah,
instantly. Because the next idea is taking precedence already.
So you don't sit down. Do you ever sit down and say someone's got a song, you've got a song, or someone else has got a song, and you've got to put a solo on it? Do you ever sit down and write? Okay, there's the first 3 bars. I'm going to write it, and you work it out. I'm going to do that.
Yep.
Righto, now the rest, right, and then later on you come back and now I'm going to do it all in one hit, or do you? Sometimes. Or do you prefer? What do you prefer to do? Do you prefer to just go, I'm going to fucking lay down whatever I feel like at the time, and that's going to be...
Sometimes, sometimes I do that too. Like it depends on how onto it I am and how much studio time I have.
Yeah.
So for the last Mason album, Impervious, I was completely all written. I went in completely. Yeah. The only thing was...
So you sat down and crafted the solos, essentially.
The solos were written, and I could play them from start to finish when I walked in there, which was a lot of hard work going in, because I had to write them and then I had to learn them, and then learn them to the point where I could sit down and perform it right there on the spot. So without thinking in things. And I even had backup solos planned. So if something didn't work, I had other ideas. So sometimes I had double solos.
Yeah.
And they did change a little bit. If somebody didn't like it, somebody goes, "Oh, that ending should go down instead of up." I just had to improvise that. But it was only like a little section. It was tiny. It was it was all just creative stuff. So fortunately, I had enough improvisation skills to get me out of those little things. But for the solo stuff, there's so much soloing going on. I prefer to just press play and feel it out. And
so what will you do if you're ever going to perform it live?
I learnt them for I learnt them for the stuff I did in Victoria. I actually learnt them. And it was pretty close to the original. I just sat down and just did it. Some of the sections are important, like as far as big tapping sections has to be exactly the same. Big sweep sections usually, if they're like melodic and stuff. Some of the lines is just like moving from like a section, from a section to a section is something super fast. There, it doesn't really matter what it is. In all honesty, it's just moving somewhere fast.
No one's gonna
that's it. Yeah, but if you're gonna like do it on a video, it has to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna like do it as a video clip, it has to be right. Or if an artist has paid you to play it, said, look, I want you to record it and I want you to do a footage of it so we can use it for our socials, it kind of has to be right, because you can't, you're not doing a service to the artist. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, make sure that I do it like that. Or my latest thing is just do it all in one take. And then I don't have to do it twice. I don't have to rethink things. I can be creative in the moment, and everyone can get their footage, and I can have the footage because that's a prerequisite now, which I'm still getting used to. So that's why I'm doing it the way I am, and until I get better at learning, memorizing sections and reproducing them quickly.
Are you going to get like a video set up at home? Like camera and lighting set up for yourself?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm going to have to.
Get something really
at the
cool.
moment,
So
it's just the old iPhone.
So you can have some good production, you know what I mean, with it. And
but I need to, that's not my forte. I have no idea what's what.
Yeah, I'm the same. Even with the lighting in here, you can see I've got all sorts of shit going on here.
Just put it on and hope. I mean, the stuff that we're doing like these days is way better than back in the day. But But then you jump on YouTube.
Back in the day, you'd have like a dolphin torch.
Sticky
taped to the gooseneck of your bike that's laying up on the wall. And then it turns a bit, it rolls, you're like, fuck.
So I've done plenty of those. Plenty of those. But and then you jump on YouTube, you got like, full on, people like Ola and those that are doing
his camera and his setup is amazing. His lighting, everything, I love it, man. I wish I could replicate it. But he's got a camera that's on a thing that like moves and shit, like oscillates around all robotically. And I'm like, that's what I want. For my podcast,
really
for
cool
the three
stuff.
people that watch
super
my podcast.
awesome. But all his old stuff when he couldn't play, when he didn't have that much, footage and cameras and that, it was still awesome. Like his playing was great and the sound was great, and I dug it. So it's kind of weird that even though it's super professional, I can still watch one of the old videos.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I ever saw him, he was playing like VR on his computer. He had the headset thing on, and he was playing that drunken bar fight game.
All right,
and the camera was like mounted up in the corner or something like that, I think. And it was pretty amateur, but it was entertaining. And I clicked subscribe, and then you look at him now, and it's like you would swear he's got a production team.
That's it.
Doing it. You know what I mean?
It's awesome. Like I just a minute ago, just before we started, I had a look, and he's got like his own pedal. I think I didn't actually see it, but just those videos he sits and tries out new gear and makes things chug.
Oh, will it chug?
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Like the early ones, the cameras and the lighting weren't the best.
No.
Obviously he didn't have the time and the money because he was still working, but I still love it because it's the guitar sound, it's just playing.
The most important thing is the sound anyway, as long as you can.
Yeah.
With a podcast as well, because before I set this up, I was trying to do heaps of research, and then I found there was heaps of podcasts with way, way better video production than Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he's got the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah.
And some of these other people's look like news stations.
Yeah.
They were so professional, so pro. The lighting, and you could tell they've got like makeup or something on it. It looked really, really awesome. But did they have anything interesting to say? You know what I mean? Or was the audio that good? And most times it was, but it was like they're probably not talking to anyone I'm really interested in listening to, whereas that's Joe Rogan's draw. He gets interesting guests and he's got decent quality audio, I guess. So that's the main thing. He could probably film it fucking in a dark dungeon and it'd still be people would watch it because of
the content.
The content, So that's why I've just... With this, I was getting so obsessed with, I've got to have this light, I've got to do this and do that, and then stuff I couldn't afford, and then I'm like, does it really even matter?
That's
as long as these mics, they sound okay, and that's really, and got guests on that I think are interesting and that I think other people find interesting, and that's the main thing. So I should probably wrap this up pretty soon.
How long have we gone for?
2 hours.
Shit.
So yeah.
Fuck, we could talk.
could go forever, but
better.
Yeah, but is there anything else you wanted to plug, talk about?
I think no, I liked it because bar this show that's coming up and starting to record, I don't really have anything, but it's kind of like a cool time to talk about it because normally you're trying to plug something. It was really cool to just actually talk about other than what I'm trying to plug, talk about music development and stuff like that. That was kind of cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, we could definitely go for hours because I'd love to pick your brains about composing songs and all sorts, but there's so many rabbit holes to go down.
There certainly is.
There can always be a part two.
There's all the guest solos, and maybe at some point when the songs are done, maybe talk a bit deeper about that when they're actually there and discuss it. Yeah, it'd be good to get you on and talk about it and get across where you know what I also like is when people do track by track talk throughs when they do album reviews. Yeah, that's good.
Or when they ask the artist when they're doing promo and they're like, oh, so tell us about the album, and they're like, on this song we're really going for this, and that's why I put that. And I really like to know, why did you put that heavy riff there then, or why did you do that? And I don't know, I'm a weirdo. I like shit like that.
I love it. I think it's awesome too. Yeah. It's just get that deeper insight. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely. So well, thanks for coming along, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was a fun chat, and and we'll have to do it again soon. And best luck with your show.
Cheers.
And so that's Mason with Soil Work in Brisbane, hey?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Grant.
No worries.
Appreciate it, man.
Catch ya.
Yeah.